Hi, freaks! We're back. We're an old friend of the Christies. My name is Matt, and joining me tonight are my fellow freaks. I've got Sue and Nathan, and we're with the
Hello.
horror movie
Hi.
freaks. How are we, guys?
Very
We're
good, thank you.
Well, I'm good.
And have we?
Sorry to speak for you, sir.
You can speak to me, it's fine.
Just good.
Both good. So, are we drinking tonight, Sue?
No, I'm coffeeing because it is my preferred beverage. But I
Right.
do have a movie cup. It has imagery from different
Oh.
movies that you have to guess. It's like got all the answers underneath.
I
Are they
can see
stickers?
Inception spinning.
Yeah, like Matrix and yeah. My
Ah,
mum bought it for me. It's quite distracting. Takes a
Very
long time to
cute.
drink. Yeah.
And Nathan,
And
are
you?
you drinking?
Of course.
We're matching. I've got a white wine. It's white wine season now. We've officially tipped over into semi-sunny weather. It is. We've just gone into daylight savings over here, so we're an hour less of sleep. Well, not an hour less, but we have to get up an hour earlier, which may mean we have to drink coffee and we have to drink white wine. And yeah, I
Ups and
still
downs.
feel like shit.
I mean, I'm 50% coffee at all times anyway.
Wow, 50%.
Yeah, I think the rest is popcorn.
Wow. Okay, so tonight we're going to be talking about Friday the 13th Part 2, and this kicks off the Friday the 13th festival. So we've got Friday the 13th Part 3 coming up on the 21st of October, and then Friday the 13th, the final chapter, which is Part 4, on the 4th of November. So this is kind of like a milestone for us. Like, it's a long time coming. So our first film, which was it 5 or 6 years ago? We did our first film review.
Yeah. I think it was about 6.
Yeah, so that was the original Friday the 13th. Did you go back and rewatch the original?
I was going to, but I haven't had time.
It wasn't an assignment. You don't need to see him.
No, but I think I should have.
Oh,
I
okay.
would have liked to.
Okay.
Yeah, only because things happened that I thought had happened in the first film. So I was like, oh, maybe I'm remembering things differently then.
Right. Yeah, I did rewatch the original the week before, and then I watched part 2 this week just to sort of catch up. So let's get into it. We'll just go through a bit of a summary of the film and show you some clips. So here we go. Alice, the final girl from the first film, thought she'd escaped the killer, but no. 5 years later, and a group of camp counselors head to Camp Crystal Lake again. Ignoring the warnings from Crazy Ralph, the murders begin again. However, this time, it's Jason, the little boy from the first film. He never drowned, and now he's out for revenge. Our final two in this film are head counselors Ginny and Paul, who try to outsmart Jason by dressing up as his dead mother. 7. Their plan appears to work. Oh wait, no, Jason's back and Paul's gone. Okay, so that's Friday the 13th Part 2. Now, I should have said at the beginning there, because it does give away everything, that we are going to be going into spoilers. But who watches like one of these? And I mean, hello, what is this? It's 1981 and this film was released. It's now 2021,
Right?
so
Time.
you've
to
had
get
plenty
on.
of time. But yeah, we will be discussing full plot points during our discussion tonight. So yeah, you may want to turn off if you haven't already. So Friday the 13th Part 2, like I said, was released in 1981, the 1st of May 1981 to be precise. It was directed by Steve Miner. This was his directorial debut. So he was the writer of the previous film. He tends to lay claim to at least Jason and a lot of the plot points, obviously, from the original, and then has been caught up in a lot of legal sort of action around who owns Friday the 13th with Sean Cunningham.
It's kind of,
Yeah, so I think that's been one of the sticking points of new Friday the 13th coming out, which is a bit disappointing. So this made $21.7 million at the box office. And it's currently sitting at a 6.1 rating on IMDb and 27% on Rotten Tomatoes.
27. Really?
27. That's rubbish.
Movies like this need to be watched in their own way. You can't
Yes.
watch it and compare it against like Oscar winner movie type. It's just its own genre. You got to watch it as like a slasher movie, or even just a horror. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactamundo. So let's get into the nitty gritty. So starting out, we had Alice popping up again. So what did you think of that sort of first cold opening scene with the itsy bitsy spider and the kid and the Jason then jumping into the puddle?
Oh yeah, I really liked that the sort of, they always have I don't know, it seems like sequels must have been a new thing then, because they don't really do a flashback to the first film now. So it's like they felt the need to say, in case you missed it, this is what happened previously.
But I'm glad that they did it, because I had to watch the other one recently.
Right. I kind of liked it, but I was like, they don't really do that anymore. But I like that they integrate it into a nightmare, so it wasn't just there for no purpose. I liked that. And I really liked how they sort of just tracked behind Alice as she went about her evening, like it was just a regular day. There was lots of shots I thought were really cool, like when she pulls the shower curtain back and stuff. I really liked all that. So yeah, I really dug the opening, actually. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I thought it was like a nod to Psycho when she's in the shower and then she's like...
Yeah, I was expecting it to go a lot more in that, like, sort of, well, if it was made now, they'd probably copy Psycho a lot more and be a lot more obvious about it, but it was just hint of it, but without copying it.
Yeah.
Like a nod.
I thought it was, like really cool, like you said, Sue, with the tracking shot, but I guess because they didn't have home media, like they didn't have videos or whatever back then, or it was just starting to be a thing. So maybe it was that they thought people had watched this at the film, like at the cinema, like a year prior, so they needed to be caught up.
That's true. Not as accessible.
Yeah.
True.
Whereas we've watched it 50,000 times. Like, how many times do you reckon you've seen part 2?
I honestly don't know, because it's been a while now, but I mean, at least 10 or so.
Yeah, I've probably seen it a couple of times, but it would have been a very long time since the last one.
Oh, okay. So when was the last time you'd watched it before this?
I reckon
I want dates. I want names.
I think
centuries or decades?
It's been a good 5 years or so, maybe more than that, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Mine would have been in the 90s.
Really? Oh my god! Wow. And did you appreciate the flying cat that landed through the window?
I remembered. This is the film that we kept saying there's always a rat. Spoiler, that's coming up later. But I remember this is the film that we said that. And then we're like, oh, and the cat thing. There's always in horror movies someone chucking a cat. Cats generally make that noise when they jump. Like through them. So then and that's why I named my blog that. So I was like, oh, that's right. That's where I got the name of this film. How cool.
Yeah, with movies these days, horror movies, it's quite, well, I guess since Scream especially, it's become quite common to have like an opening scene which is almost standalone and kill off maybe the main character. It wasn't really done back then, was it? Was this one of the first ones?
Well, Psycho had the main characters sort of killed off.
But that was I guess it's sort of half the movie almost before that happened.
This is kind of like a condensed version, so yeah, maybe it kicked off that
idea. Yeah, that's true.
But I thought the music also was very much like Psycho, like it had a sort of Psycho vibe to the music, which I love. If I was to make a horror movie, I mean, you guys know this, that I would base it around this era of Friday the 13th, but I just love it for that music. Like, it's.
I actually really enjoyed the music as well. It wasn't it was noticeable, but at the same time in a good way.
Yeah, it just enhanced everything. It
Yeah.
never like overtook the action or anything.
And did you think that Alice became the inventor of Gem and the Holograms? Because it looked like that's what she was drawing. Like, it was like a woman with big hair and like it looked like a star over her eyes. I'm like, is that Gem and the Holograms?
Or maybe Kiss could have been.
Could have been Kiss. Yeah. But
and also the bit
didn't
where she
understand
picks up the ice pick when she thinks there's an intruder.
Yes.
And stuff. That's all right. That's quite a good couple of decades before Basic Instinct.
I know.
do you own an ice pick?
Well, I did think
No.
that. How many people just randomly have an ice pick in their house?
Like when was ice trays invented? Like, it doesn't seem like a difficult implement to have invented. I would have assumed that they had them in the 80s.
Did people
Were they just
buy
chipping
a
away
block
at
of ice?
giant?
That doesn't seem practical.
Like, why don't you
Freezes
pour
it
them
out.
into trays? Like, so they come out like cubes.
Yeah, I remember us having ice cube trays when I was a kid, and I was a kid in the 80s, so yeah.
Yeah, they just had it for dramatic effect, the ice pick.
I guess hitting him with an ice cube tray, it's not going to have the same
No,
effect.
that's so true.
Especially if it's one of those little silicon ones you get now.
Yeah.
Why is this ineffective? Yeah.
So then going back to now 5 years on, and they're going back to a training camp at Camp Crystal Lake. I thought that was a bit of a different spin. It took the kids out of the equation. So last time they were setting up the camp for the kids, so that's why there was no kids. This time it's a training camp, so you can guarantee there's no kids. So it's like we discussed in previous reviews, where back then they were very skittish around showing any violence or horror around kids.
Which they still were in a bit with like Fear Street, in that we didn't really most of the deaths there were off camera. Anyway,
in part 2 though, we did see kids and we did see them getting killed. And in what was the first review that we did this year? The Bride one.
Ready?
Yeah, Ready or Not.
And
but they were all off camera.
We saw them off camera, but we saw them explode.
Oh yeah.
In these Friday the 13th, whereas we're not seeing kids at all.
Not even, yeah, exactly. Yeah, they took it to.
I don't remember kids in Friday the 13th until part 6. Oh, they had what's his name? Corey Feldman in part 4, but I remember in part 6 there was children actually at the camp, but that was the first time I kind of remember there being children at the camp.
Yeah, same.
I remember it was quite shocking.
Otherwise, I mean, it did kind of. Yeah, it didn't necessarily feel like a camp.
No,
because it was a training camp.
Yeah, so it did give it a
training camp, or what were they training for? Pornos? Did they have OnlyFans back then? Like,
pretty much, because as soon as they're all getting there, and it's like after like dinner or whatever, they're all cooking up and going off doing their own thing.
Yeah.
Yes, I know, it was all a bit strange. And then they go for that like run in the woods. Like, why are we going for coordinated runs and stuff? That was a bit strange. And who's running in a tube top? I mean, Jesus Christ, she'd have to spend the whole thing going like this.
It seems like she would be happy just for them to fall down. Like, I mean, who goes for a skinny dip like in the middle of the night? Well, not maybe it wasn't the middle of the night, but in pitch black. Like, it didn't seem inviting. It didn't go like, oh, I'd love to go for a swim. Like,
it looked cold.
Like overly hot. Like,
yeah.
Everyone
else was in like jeans and looking kind of rugged up.
Yeah. No, I think some of the things from this movie, which I'm not going to complain about it because a part of its charm was just gratuitous.
Yeah.
It
was like there's no real logic behind these things happening. It's just tits and ass or blood and guts, and that's just of the genre.
I'm with you, Nathan. Like that's what the charm was. Like it was like, what happened to those films that I used to like wait up until 11 o'clock at night to watch on TV, like those TNA
Porky's.
movies. Yeah, yeah, like those
I know.
Porky style movies. Like,
It's Porky's, but with
Yeah.
blood and guts.
Yeah, but they weren't gross. Like, I don't know, when they seem to try to have that in films now, they just feel like objectifying or exploitive or gross in some way.
someone
Resident Evil-
did like shoot her in the ass, like with a.
Yeah, but it was like, oh, you.
I know.
Where is that? Mm.
I know. It's like she didn't care so much, and then he didn't care. It was just really cheesy,
I mean-
but in a good way.
I know, right? And no one was like slut shamed either. I didn't
I know.
think.
That's true. That there was no slut shaming. Like it was just like, oh, you know, get your bush out,
all
like go
she
for a swim.
I think underwear was optional for her anyway. She
Well,
didn't seem to
there was a
own-
question of underwear, like all throughout this film, because that awful underwear,
Yes, that's in my notes.
Oh, the
underwear
brown
that-
one.
the
out
brown
and
sort of.
This shiny brown underwear.
Yeah.
They look like plastic bags, like those garbage bags.
They were wrinkly at the back.
I love how
looked
that was
at
her sex underwear. Like she was so like, oh, he's gonna love it.
I know. Ooh, get the special brown ones with the wrinkly bits at the back. But
And then I'm gonna like comb my hair so it's so teased and split end looking.
Never looked hotter. I'll leave my jumper on.
Yes. No, I'm gonna change my jumper like into a really woolly jumper. Like that's sexy. So should we have a look at the cast and sort of go into that into more detail? So Amy Steele was Ginny, the final girl. I always liked her.
Yeah, she was a good final girl. When she popped up at the beginning, I thought, yeah, final girl. She had that energy. Yeah.
You don't like her, Sue?
I wasn't as sold. No, I just felt like her responses felt a bit underplayed, but it seemed to me like that was maybe her character, so I accepted it as that's who she was. But it was a little, under for a horror sort of, scream queen reaction sort of thing.
I don't think her acting was the best. There were questionable tastes, I thought, as well. But there's something about her, that girl next door, that she has this sort of X factor that I think set her apart from the others, especially in contrast to the other girls.
Yeah. The other girls were more like, 80s centerfold type girls.
Yeah.
Who just ended up getting a role in a movie. But she seemed like someone who you can imagine would want to be a serious actress.
Yeah, I can see that.
Maybe she wasn't the best at it, but
Because
so she seemed quite relaxed.
I didn't think anyone was. Oh no, the only one that I really wasn't that keen on was, the hippie couple at the beginning in the truck.
Yeah.
I thought she was not the best.
She looked like she was like 12.
she
or
looked
something.
very,
Yeah,
very
she
young.
Yeah.
I didn't like her acting particularly. She seemed like overexcited and like, I'm on a film set, woohoo! But not actually in character or anything.
Yeah, no, she wasn't. She wasn't great. So Amy Steele, she was in. Was it April Fools? Is that the only? That's the only other one I think I know her from.
She's familiar. Is that what we've seen her in?
I thought it was April Fools. I'm just looking through. Let's see her IMDb.
I think she just reminds me of someone else rather than being in other stuff.
Yeah,
Definitely
April Fools. That's that one that has like the.
I like that movie.
I don't remember. I just remember the cover, like that. It's got the plait that's in a noose.
That.
Oh,
Isn't it a horror
it's
comedy?
got a really good twist at the end. Kind of, but at least the horror was like real horror.
Yeah. What did you think of?
I like horror comedies.
Sorry, was that Sue?
Oh, horror comedies in the 80s were less comedy, I feel. So they were better. They seem to highlight the horror more than they do now.
True. What did you think of Ted?
Which one?
He was the Twinkie guy who was like the jokester.
Oh, that one with the slingshot.
No, he was the one who jumped out as sort of Jason when they were recounting.
Oh,
Tall
the
guy.
Yeah.
skinny, nerdy.
But who
He
was
said
like
something.
buff. Like when he took his top off, like he was like had a 6-pack.
I didn't notice. I think he's got a good presence on screen, but he's only ever gonna be like the comedy guy. I saw
Yeah.
him
Poor
in
little
just one of the
guy.
guys. I saw him in just one of the guys. He was in that. But he's all right.
And I fitted the 80s Porky's meatballs.
Well,
yeah,
he was
sidekick type
in
of-
Christine,
Oh yeah, he would have been. Yeah, I can see that.
and he was a writer for Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Oh,
Really?
okay.
Did they show what happened to him? I
No,
can't
so
remember
that's the
how-
thing. Like, so I understand. Like, they wanted to show that it was different from the first film. So it was a training camp. So they had a lot of counselors there at the beginning, but then they get rid of like 2/3 of them by sending them off to the pub. So he just sort of like goes to the pub and
Disappeared.
never comes back.
Yeah,
That's what
I noticed that as
thought.
well.
Is that what happened to him? Yeah, okay.
No,
But then I guess they rather than killing, well, they couldn't kill everyone off in the movie, so they just cleared the deck a little bit, minimized it to have like a focal few. But then I'm assuming because at the end where she's getting carted away in the ambulance, I'm guessing the other party people came back and found her and needed help.
I think he went off to the after party with that old man at the bar.
The guy who played Mark, was he actually in a wheelchair?
No, so he wasn't in a wheelchair. I looked that up as well. He actually died like young of HIV, I think it was. Yeah, back in 1995.
Like
Okay.
I like that they had this inclusive wheelchair character.
It was an interesting
Like,
choice, I thought.
I actually quite like that because I was thinking that was before it was kind of cool and PC to do that. It didn't really serve any particular purpose. So
No, it didn't. And when you think about the design of the camp, it wasn't really wheelchair friendly.
no, it wasn't.
Ramps or anything like that. And it's going down like gravel roads and
That's
somehow
true.
getting up and down steps in that wheelchair. And they just didn't acknowledge a lot of the things.
No.
Let's all go
Challenges
for
the
Mark.
character like
Don't
that.
mention Mark.
Yeah. Well, and then obviously what happens to him in his ending, that kind of does address it a little bit.
Yeah.
That was a good death, though.
That
I
was
really
a good
liked
death. Yeah. But he was
Yeah,
in
so that's why.
Highway to Heaven and Gimme a Break.
Oh, he's like that show.
I used to love Gimme
Is
the
that-
Break.
Is that Nell?
Yeah.
Yeah, Nell and
Nell Carter, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Now I've got the song
I
in my
like that show.
head. But that Scott was the one who had the slingshot. He
Oh, okay.
like hasn't been in very much either, but he looked very familiar.
I just imagine he'd be like, all right, we talk about like the Playboy girls. He's just like a Playgirl guy.
Yeah.
He did look like someone. I liked, that scene. Oh, I really like the scene where she opens the door and Jason sits up in the bed. That's really quite creepy, I think.
Yeah.
That's a good shot.
Especially because
And
he
then
looks
at
like
the
he's got a
end-
pillowcase on his head, so if he's in the bed,
Yeah.
he doesn't have much to cover
The
up.
pillowcase is alive.
And then, when they're downstairs and they're wandering around in the dark and she's like, Paul, there's someone in the fucking room, and then he suddenly moves.
Yeah.
That was really good.
Yeah.
Made me jump. I
Actually
thought
had
that
some
was
really
funny.
good suspenseful moments in this.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked that. I thought that was cool. It kind of made me think of the When a Stranger Calls
Yeah.
Part 2. Yeah. That was
So Nathan, what was your
But also a bit like Sorry.
your favorite
Sorry.
death?
ooh, I know there were I don't know if I had a favorite death. A lot of them obviously there's the couple in the bed with the spear. I kind of remembered that one. Mike in the wheelchair where he gets macheted from behind and then ends up going down 2 flights of stairs. Which just seems like a little bit offensive and disrespectful anyway. To be honest, I don't remember a lot of the other ones. I've sort of forgotten me. I have to have a look at my notes.
It was apparently there's a lot more gore in the original film, but after the original like Friday the 13th came out, they'd already started production on the second one, but the people that do the ratings, MPAA I think it is in America, they were really concerned about the sequel film because they thought the first one was way too graphic. So they made them cut out a lot of the gory bits.
Okay. A lot of the deaths. Well,
is that why there's scenes of like naked girl when she runs into the camera and screams, but you don't actually see her get killed?
Yeah.
Yeah, but also like there's not a lot of like they'll show stuff like about to happen, like the girl with the ugly brown knickers, and she just sort of gets and then gets stabbed. Like apparently there was more to that.
Yes.
The guy who was upside down and gets slashed across, like you only really see it like slash and a little bit of blood, and they cut away.
Yeah, some of them were quite quick like that as well, and even the Doom guy as well at the beginning with the.
It's got a death curse.
I like how he came back.
Oh, wow.
Continuity. You're all doomed.
But he didn't really get a chance to tell them, other than the two in the when their car got towed.
I liked how when you saw him sort of like lurking around outside in the dark, they were almost setting it up that he was going to be the killer, but then they got rid of that idea really quickly.
And what did you think of Jason coming back as the killer? Like a lot of the people in the original production, Sean S. Cunningham and Tom Savini have all said that they took offense that they brought Jason back. They thought that was a bad move and undermined the first film. What did you think of Jason coming back after the whole first film was about Jason dying as a little kid?
Yeah, well, I guess they explained it with was it Jenny in the bar? She's all trying to explain how maybe he's obviously grown up now and what his psychology might be like, having seen his mum killed, and how he hasn't really had anyone to guide him, and he's just been off in the wild, fending for himself, stealing whatever. So there was that, basically tried to fill in the gap. But at the same time, it's a long time for him to grow up to get that big.
Right, and I mean, that then says that he didn't die, which was the whole basis of her problem.
I know.
Yeah, that's what they had the issue with.
So yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Now you mention it. Because also it's like obviously she had issues with it. So where was he when she was going nuts, the mum?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like you couldn't imagine, like he was so upset that his mum got killed that obviously he saw that happen because he kept her head, but then he never let her know that he was wandering around the woods. Like
I know, for years.
Yeah. It's a bit of a plot hole.
Problem there. Yeah.
It is. I mean, but let's move on because Jason becomes like a main character in the franchise.
I think that someone should go back and do like a in between those 5 years, like when I think because you're right, Nathan, like all of what we know and what we think Jason did is based off of the fireside chat that Paul talks about, and
which is really more of an urban legend type story.
Yeah. And then what Ginny says, but it's like they're only guessing. Like maybe they should go back and say he went to a mental institution and the mum knew that, but she just like chose to see it that and then he escaped after hearing that she had been decapitated. Like there could be this whole backstory which they explain.
But at the same time, it seems a little bit more scary, kind of not knowing, because up until the later parts of the movie, we actually don't see Jason. We see hands and people getting like necks cut and all that sort of stuff. He's like, he's like the alien. So you barely see. It's like glimpses.
Right, I was just thinking that when we did see him and he had long hair, I was like, what the?
Well, they saved that for like the very end. Well, he's been off in the wild. He hasn't been getting haircuts.
I know, but it looked so funny. But I especially liked that he was more fallible in this. Like in the later Jasons, he's like a machine. Like you can't do anything. You have no chance. Whereas this one, he's like falling over and tripping over things, and she bangs the car door into him and he actually falls down. And, it's like he's not a machine. He's a real person.
Yeah.
And he is fallible. You can actually beat him, which I like.
I totally agree. So this is something that I love about this version of Jason. Like once he, spoiler alert, gets killed, like I find it harder and harder with each film to invest in it because it's like, what chance do you have? Like he's a robot in outer space, like that can reform with nanotechnology. Like
Keep finding ways to bring him back.
Whereas this one, like she kicks him in the nuts and she's got a chance. Like, it makes sense. Like, yeah, he's a serious killer. Like he looks like a strong guy, but you've got to have some chance to be invested in the film.
Exactly. Which
Otherwise,
is why
it does just feel like fodder.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is why movies like this are more scary for me than, again, the supernatural type ones, because it feels more real.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of do feel like this film falls down script-wise because when I really think about what the plot is, there kind of isn't one. They just show up and then get killed.
Yeah.
Like there's not really any character arc or development necessarily. I mean, I suppose Ginny has like a little one, but not really. Like it's fun. I'm not picking holes, but that's where there's a problem there, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's acceptable though for this type of movie. It's a slasher movie. You don't have to have all of that. That could be kept to the minimum. You're going for, again, the thrills and the horror and the blood and the guts.
Well, for a long time, like Friday the 13th Part 2 was one of my favorites out of the franchise. I liked it better than the original. Now I think I prefer the original because I think, like you, Sue, I love the camp factor, the camp of the camp factor of Part 2. I like Jason is just this guy in a pillowcase with a hole in it. Like that's all really interesting to me. But since watching Part 1 and Part 2 so closely back to back, I did think that Part 1 is, like the original one, is probably more of a stronger film because it does have, granted, not a huge like plot, but it does have a better plot than the sequel one. It really is, just feels like a little bit of an extenuation, like continuation of the first one, where it's not really adding a lot to it. Like it does add Jason, but it's where is the plot?
Yeah, I do feel like I understand what you're saying, Nathan, but I do think a minimum plot is not asking for a whole lot. And I think most slashers have some sort of framework within which they have all the violence and nastiness happen.
Thinking of the original and thinking of the two that are about to come, like I think this one does have the least amount of plot out of the four films.
Yeah. But I still dig it.
Don't get me wrong, I had a great time.
Don't get me wrong. I am not saying anything terrible, but I'm aware of it.
So we move on to the final part of the film. So half of the people, or most of the people, have been either killed or drunk at the bar. So we have Paul and Ginny coming back and seeing that the lights are on, and that's got to be suspicious if the lights are left on. And they see Jason in his pillowcase. What did you think of the final part of the film, Sue?
Oh, well, like I said, I really liked that scene in the dark. I thought that was really well done. And I really liked the whole psychology that she used pretending to be mum. But I'm like, why didn't you put the head on the floor or something? Why are you just trying to block it with your body? Like,
do you want to touch that thing?
Man.
No, I wouldn't.
Yes. My life. Oh, and I like that she pisses her pants. Like, I did think that was really appropriate response. Like, you hardly ever see that, especially for a woman. They don't want her to look less than pretty and stuff. But I'm like, no, you would be scared. You would wet yourself. You've just had loads of drinks at the bar, probably.
I always think that, like, I'm really busting. I'm probably going to have a car accident. What would I do then? Like, these things, like, if you got to go, you got to go. And especially for rats running across your face.
Right.
I found that the last part of it, like, while I have seen it quite a few times, I found it was quite exhilarating. Like, I found that she made some really stupid mistakes, but I did like that back and forth. Like, she gets away and you see Jason running in front, and then he comes back around and now she's being chased. Like, it was kind of like they were both sort of circling each other, like one was in front of the other. So I getting back, I guess, to that, Jason being a little bit more vulnerable. I found it like I was doing the edge of my seat type of sitting position that I normally do in a scary film, as you probably are aware. Nathan, did you find it scary at all, or at least thrilling?
I did that whole end bit. I mean, the part that was in the cabin where she goes, "Yes, there's someone in the room with us," but then basically the whole last part where she runs out and running through the woods, and the bit where
it felt almost like it was intended to be 3D. I mean, I know
that's what I was about to say. Yeah,
it's for later in that, but it did feel like that, didn't it? Like those were the kind of shots that they put in 3D films.
When she threw her towel like into the bush for no reason, I'm like, is it because it's 3D? Like, she threw it at the camera. It's like, what was that about? Someone's got to pick that up.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's interesting. Oh, and when you see someone like take away, you know, when that girl's skinny dipping and you see a hand take away the clothing and stuff, like at first I'm like, why would Jason be doing that? That's ridiculous. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, his nails were too clean. That wasn't Jason.
Yeah, they did like to throw out a few redheaded.
Quite a few point of view type shots as well, of like hands peeping through bushes and all that sort of stuff. So that was kind of, again, fun at its time.
I'm glad you bring that up, Nathan, because it's kind of funny. Like, I wrote down in my notes that some of the eye lines were off, and either they're looking at the camera and they're saying, "Muffin?" It's like, girl, you're up here. Muffin is not 6'4". Like, that is Jason. Can't you tell by he's wearing a sack on his head? Like, it kind of took me out of it. Like, that, like, you're looking at the camera, which we have been led to believe that's the point of view of the killer. But you're saying Muffin? Like, and you could clearly see, like, there was a few times it's like he's standing in front of you, like.
Oh, speaking of Muffin, I love when they find that, you know, that looks like packing material in the woods, and they're like, it looks like a dog. Like, does it?
Muffin.
Did we say that? I don't think so. Yeah, I'm so glad it wasn't Muffin.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that brings us to the final bit. What did you think of the very end where we get that bit where Muffin's scratching at the door, surprise, and it's like the music's like harps or something, like very serene, and we get Jason jumping through the window with all of his long locks flowing behind.
Well, the movie kind of had a few endings, it seemed. Like it was going to wrap up. So there was that one, and then there was one back in the cabin as well, like Jason's cabin, I'm guessing. And then there was another one right at the very, very end, wasn't there?
No, then after she gets Jason jumps through the window, she wakes up and she's being put into the back of an ambulance. But like, where's Paul? Like, everyone's forgotten about.
I thought that he had died at that point, but she keeps asking, "Where's Paul? Where's Paul?"
We don't know. He just
honestly,
they didn't bother addressing.
It's like we couldn't afford to pay him for another day, so Paul's gone. Jason jumped through the window. Paul's gone. Paul's dead. Muffin's dead. You got attacked. The end. Roll credits.
Yeah, we do one more scene, just tied in.
When Muffin was walking towards, and like there was that music playing, it kind of reminded me of the end of Carrie, when it seems like something nice is happening and the hand shoots up. So I was thinking, is someone going to jump out and grab Muffin? Because I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. All right, just leave Muffin alone.
Not Muffin.
Oh, no.
How could you not remember the ending of the film?
Because I watch a lot of movies. A lot.
No, the other ending that I was mentioning is like, I think right before the very, very ending, where they go back to the cabin and there's like a slow zoom in on the head, surrounded by all the candles and that sort of thing.
That's the very ending.
I was waiting for the eyes to pop open.
So
it looked like there was someone in a mask.
There was. So apparently the actual ending, you're right, Nathan, was there is someone wearing a mask. and the original ending was she opens her eyes and smiles, which the director thought looks super corny, which anyone could have told you that. So they just freeze framed it. So that's why,
Yeah, because I thought the same thing. Like, if I don't remember that happening, and if it does happen, it's going to look real shit. Please don't do that. That's what I was thinking. They're going to. Oh no, don't
ruin it.
So they did, but then they didn't.
Stupid.
Okay, they had second thoughts, which is good.
They saved that for part 3.
Oh, I'm excited to watch part 3 though.
Yeah.
I remember I really liked it. And I love part 4, so I'm excited about these 3. It's very good.
Part 4 just makes me think of you, Sue. So I think you went first last time, Nathan. Do you want to give your final opinions?
Yeah, look, overall, just checking my notes. Look, there was a lot of running around in the dark and quite a lot of tense scenes, which I really like. That's what I want in a horror, to feel like horrified and on the edge of my seat. So I really like that. I really like the music score. I thought that was really strong, which you already mentioned, Matt. And we don't get to learn much about the truth about Jason, which, like the aliens, sort of, I think, adds to the mystery a little bit. So the idea of just some psycho killer out there, we don't necessarily know all his motivations. That makes it seem a little bit more scary. So it's like the fear of the unknown or the myth. But yeah, overall, some genuine tense moments, good lighting, good camera work. I really enjoyed it. Pash.
Certified Pash. Oh, so what do you think?
I think it was cheesy, corny goodness. Like, I do love all that. That's awesome. I love the 80s. I thought it was really nicely directed, surprisingly nicely directed. I thought some shots were really nice. Glad they didn't kill off the dog, thank goodness. And I really liked some of the deaths. Like, I thought the woodshed guy's death, I know you said it was offensive, but I thought it was really effective. To be honest, I really liked it. I thought it was good. So yeah, I think it was good, really good, actually, much better than I remember it. And a big Pash.
A big Pash. I'm your boyfriend now. And yeah, for me, I've always loved this film. It's, like I said, was one of my favorite Friday the 13th installments. But yeah, looking back, maybe it doesn't have, maybe I'm seeing the flaws now. Maybe I'm taking those rose-colored glasses off, but I still think, it's got some great moments. I think the last part of the film is really good. I think, some of the directing, the music, all stuff that we've talked about are really good. There's a lot going for it. I love Jason in his pillowcase running through the woods, getting kicked in the nuts. That's great. It's great. How could you not love that? So as long as you're not thinking, I say, have some drinks, put this on, and you'll have a great time every time. So it's definitely one that I'll continue to watch. It's definitely a Pash for me. So that was the first part of our Friday the 13th festival. So this festival is kind of the festival of Jason Voorhees being alive. So part 2, part 3, and part 4 all lead up to Jason's final demise. Spoiler alert, from then on he is a walking zombie. So that's the theme of this festival. So our next review is on the 21st of October. So before that, make sure you watch the film and join us in the chat room. Are you looking forward to part 3, guys?
Oh yeah, especially after this
Very
one.
much.
I hadn't seen it for a long time, and thoroughly enjoyed it.
I mean, I wish we could go see it at that 3D cinema in Adelaide like we used to.
The Capri. That's the last time I saw this one in 3D.
That was so good. Yeah, I miss that.
Our neighbour runs the Capri, and they don't have a 3D projector anymore. They don't have the 3D copy of that anymore. So, because that's the first thing when I found out that he was running it, that I asked him, like, do you still have Friday the 13th Part 3? And they don't. So, otherwise I would have put on like a special viewing for my birthday or something. That was, at least we've done it once, and that was we'll talk about it next time. But that was a great experience. So make sure that you follow us on Twitter. You can find us under Horror Movie, and on Facebook, just look up Horror Movie Freaks. Like I said, we go live every Thursday. You can also follow us on our social media as well. So we've put them up on during the show. Was there anything else you wanted to add, guys, before we wrap up?
No.
Oh, happy birthday, Matt.
Oh, thank you. Another year older.
Again.
So thanks for joining us, guys, and thanks to you guys at home. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Bye.
See ya.